The alarm screamed through every corridor of Research Station Kepler 442. Dr. Sarah Chen ran through the shaking hallways, her heart pounding in her chest. Around her, aliens of 23 different species rushed toward the evacuation pods. Some flew, some crawled, some moved in ways that still looked strange to her even after 3 years on the station. "Core breach in Sector 7, the computer voice announced calmly, as if it wasn't telling everyone they had minutes to live. "All personnel evacuate immediately." Sarah grabbed a handrail as another tremor shook the station. The experimental energy core they'd been testing had failed. Something about the quantum containment field. She didn't understand all the technical details. What she understood was that 847 people were about to die unless they got off this station in the next 20 minutes. She reached the main evacuation bay and stopped. The massive room was chaos. Aliens pushed and shoved toward the transport ships docked along the walls. The Vexri, tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms, were blocking the entrances to several ships. Their leader, a scientist named Krixthal, who Sarah had worked with for years, stood on a cargo container. "Listen." Krixthal's translator device made his clicking sounds into words. "We have calculated. Not enough ships for everyone. We must decide who goes." The crowd went quiet. Even the Drex, massive bear-like aliens who usually roared at everything, stopped making noise. "The Vexri propose a logical solution," Krixthal continued. "We calculate value. Species with low population numbers go first, then species with high reproduction rates stay. It is efficient." Sarah felt sick. They were talking about leaving people behind like it was a math problem. Around her, other humans in the crowd looked just as horrified. There were only 32 humans on the station. They'd be near the front of the line by Krixthal's logic. Commander Thalos, the station's leader, flew down from the upper level. The Altarian's purple feathers were ruffled with stress. "There must be another way. Calculate faster. Find more space on the ships." "There is no more space," Krixthal said flatly. "Approximately 120 individuals must remain. The math is simple." "Then we draw lots," someone shouted. "Make it random." "Inefficient," Krixthal replied. "Why risk losing valuable research specialists when we could leave behind maintenance workers?" Sarah wanted to scream. This couldn't be happening. These were people, not numbers in a calculation. She looked around desperately for another option, any option. That's when she saw Marcus. Marcus Webb stood near the back of the crowd, his security uniform making him easy to spot among the various aliens. He was Sarah's oldest friend. They'd grown up on the same street in Seattle. They'd applied to the Coalition space program together. When Sarah got assigned to this station, Marcus had requested a transfer just so she wouldn't be alone out here. Their eyes met across the crowd. Sarah saw something in his face that made her blood run cold. She knew that look. She'd seen it before. Back when they were kids, and Marcus had decided to do something stupidly brave. "No," Sarah whispered. "Marcus, no." But Marcus was already moving. He pushed through the crowd, not roughly, just steadily. When he reached the front, he looked up at Krixthal. "I have a solution," Marcus said. His voice was calm, too calm. "Someone stays behind and stabilizes the core manually, buys time for everyone else to evacuate." The crowd murmured. Commander Thalos tilted his head. "The radiation levels near the core are fatal. Whoever does this will die." "I know," Marcus said. "I volunteer." Sarah pushed forward, fighting through the crowd. "Marcus, stop! Don't do this!" Marcus turned to her. His eyes were sad but certain. "Sarah, you have Emma. She's 6 years old. She needs her mom. She needs her mom alive." "Not you dead." Sarah grabbed his arm. "I'm more qualified anyway. I actually understand the core systems better than you do." "I know," Marcus said softly. "That's why it has to be me. You can explain to Emma why her mom had to go away. I can't explain to Emma why I let her mom die when I could have prevented it." Around them, the aliens watched with confusion. One of the Vexri, a younger one named Pixtal, clicked quietly to Crixthal. "Why does he volunteer? His survival probability is acceptable. There are others with lower utility." Crixthal didn't answer. He was watching Marcus and Sarah with something that might have been curiosity in his compound eyes. Sarah felt tears running down her face. "Marcus, please. There has to be another way." "There isn't." Marcus pulled his arm free gently. "And we're wasting time. Every minute we argue is a minute I could be buying for everyone else." He looked at Commander Thalos. "I need a radiation suit and access to the core controls." Thalos looked at the other humans in the crowd. There were 31 others besides Sarah and Marcus. None of them stepped forward to stop him. They understood something the aliens didn't. Sarah could see it in their faces. They knew Marcus had made his choice. They knew arguing would dishonor that choice. They knew that if positions were reversed, any of them would do the same thing. "This is acceptable," Commander Thalos said finally. "Lieutenant Webb, you have the gratitude of the Coalition." The next 15 minutes passed in a blur. Sarah stood at the door of the last evacuation ship, refusing to board until she had to. Through the window, she could see the station's core section on the monitors. Marcus was there, his suited figure tiny against the massive machinery. She could hear his voice over the comm system, calm and professional as he gave updates. "Stabilizing field generator 1. That should give you another 5 minutes." The ships began launching. One by one, they detached from the station and flew toward the safe zone. Sarah's ship was the last one. Commander Thalos personally had to pull her through the door. As the ship pulled away, Marcus's voice came over the comm one last time. "Sarah, you still there?" "I'm here," Sarah choked out. "Tell Emma I'm sorry I'll miss her birthday. And tell her that her Uncle Marcus loved her very much." "Marcus, go. Get everyone safe. That's an order, Dr. Chen." The comm went silent. Sarah pressed her face against the window, watching the station grow smaller. 47 minutes after Marcus entered the core room, the station exploded. A brief, bright flash in the darkness of space, and then nothing. Marcus Webb was gone. Around Sarah, the aliens discussed the event with academic interest. "Suboptimal decision-making," one Vexri noted. "He had adequate survival probability. His sacrifice was mathematically unnecessary." "Perhaps a cultural quirk," another responded. "Humans are new to space. They haven't learned efficient resource allocation yet." Sarah sat in her seat and cried. Not because the aliens were wrong about efficiency, but because they were right about one thing. They didn't understand humans at all. 6 months later, Sarah received a package from Earth. Inside was a formal invitation with a seal she'd never seen before. It read, "Your presence is requested at a classified ceremony. Loyalty protocol initiated. United Earth Government, Geneva." Sarah held the invitation and remembered Marcus's calm voice saying goodbye. She had no idea what a loyalty protocol was, but she had a feeling she was about to learn something about humanity that the aliens would never understand. The shuttle touched down in Geneva on a cold morning in October. Sarah hadn't been back to Earth in 4 years. The gravity felt heavy after so long on the lighter station. Every step reminded her she was home. A young officer met her at the landing pad. He couldn't have been more than 25, with sharp features and nervous energy. "Dr. Chen, please follow me. The ceremony begins in 2 hours." "What ceremony?" Sarah asked for the 10th time since receiving the invitation. "What's the loyalty protocol?" The officer just smiled. "You'll see, ma'am. Admiral Rivera will explain everything." They drove through Geneva in an unmarked car. Sarah watched the city pass by, so different from the metal corridors of the space station. Real trees, real sky. She'd missed it more than she realized. The car pulled up to a building she didn't recognize. It looked old, built from stone, with no signs or markings. The officer led her through a security checkpoint that scanned her 3 different ways, then down a long hallway lined with photographs. Sarah stopped walking. The photographs were of people, humans in various uniforms. Under each photo was a name, a date, and a single line describing how they died. Saved 12 colonists from reactor meltdown. Held airlock while others escaped. Gave last oxygen tank to injured pilot. There were hundreds of photographs. The Hall of Eternal Service, the officer said quietly. Every human who died in Coalition space, saving others. We remember them all. Sarah's throat tightened. She walked slowly down the hall reading the names. Some she recognized from news reports. Most she didn't. At the end of the hall, she found a new photograph that made her stop breathing. Marcus Webb smiled out from the frame. His security uniform was crisp, his eyes bright. The caption read, Lieutenant Marcus Webb died stabilizing core breach at Station Kepler 442, saved 847 lives from 23 species, left behind 1 son, James Webb, age 16. He's here too, the officer said. James, he arrived this morning. He didn't know about any of this either. Sarah touched the photograph gently. Why didn't anyone tell us? Why keep this secret? Admiral Rivera will explain. Come on, we should get you to the ceremony room. The ceremony room was large and filled with people. Sarah recognized some of them. There was Helen Park, whose sister had died stopping a pirate attack on a mining station. There was David Okonkwo, whose son had given his life closing a hull breach on a transport ship. Dozens of families, all connected by loss. And there, sitting alone in the 3rd row, was a teenage boy who looked so much like Marcus it hurt to see him. Sarah sat down next to James Webb without asking. The boy looked at her with red eyes. He'd been crying. You're Dr. Chen, James said. It wasn't a question. Dad talked about you in his messages, said you were his best friend. He was mine too, Sarah said. She didn't know what else to say. What do you tell a 16-year-old boy whose father died saving your life? Before she could figure it out, a woman in an admiral's uniform walked onto the stage. She was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen too much. Good morning, Admiral Catherine Rivera said. Her voice filled the room without needing a microphone. Thank you all for coming. I know you have questions. I know you're confused. Today, you'll get answers. She pressed a button and a holographic display appeared behind her. It showed the Galactic Coalition's emblem, surrounded by symbols from different alien species. 23 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Coalition. We were excited. Finally, we were part of something bigger. We could work alongside dozens of other species, learn from them, share the universe with them. The Admiral paused. And then, our people started dying. Not in wars, not in accidents, but in moments of choice, moments where they decided to save others instead of themselves. The hologram changed to show statistics, numbers and graphs that Sarah didn't fully understand. The Coalition has protocols for death, Admiral Rivera continued. The Vex-Ree have compensation matrices. If one of their people dies, the family receives a calculated payment based on the deceased's economic output. Very logical. Very efficient. More images appeared. The Altarians hold memorial services that last exactly 1 hour. They sing traditional songs and then move on. They believe dwelling on death is inefficient. The Drex recycle the bodies of their dead and use the nutrients for their fungus farms. They believe death should serve the living. Admiral Rivera's voice hardened. Every species has their system. Every system is logical. and every single one of them made us sick to our stomachs. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Sarah leaned forward. So, 20 years ago, after the 15th human died saving aliens who didn't even understand why it mattered, we started something new. We called it the Loyalty Protocol. The Admiral smiled, and it was fierce. We decided that if the galaxy wouldn't honor our dead the way they deserved, then by God we would. The hologram changed again, showing the Hall of Eternal Service. Every human who dies saving others in Coalition space is remembered here. Their name, their story, their sacrifice. We teach their stories in schools. We make sure their families know that humanity sees what they did. Sarah felt tears starting again. Next to her, James was gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles were white. But we don't just remember, Admiral Rivera said. We reward. Because loyalty deserves more than words. She looked directly at James. James Webb, your father gave his life so that 847 people could live. He made that choice in seconds, without calculation, without debate. He did it because that's what humans do. James stood up slowly, looking confused and scared. For his sacrifice, humanity offers you this: full educational funding through whatever level you choose. Priority housing anywhere on Earth or the colonies. Lifetime health care for you and your future family, and a guaranteed position in any field you wish to pursue, from the Coalition space program to private industry to government service. James's mouth fell open. Around the room, other families were having similar reactions as Admiral Rivera listed what they would receive. The other species think we're crazy, the Admiral said. They've seen the budget reports. They know we're spending billions of credits on these programs. The Vexri have calculated it as wildly inefficient. The Altarians think we're being emotional. The Drex don't understand it at all. She smiled. Good. Let them wonder. Let them calculate. Let them try to understand why humanity spends so much honoring loyalty. Her voice dropped. Because here's what they don't understand. This isn't about efficiency. This is about making a promise. When you stand beside humanity, when you trust us, when you sacrifice for us, we will remember. We will honor you. We will take care of your family like they're our own. Admiral Rivera looked around the room at all the families. Your loved ones saved aliens who didn't fully appreciate what they did. But humanity appreciates it, and we pay our debts. She pressed another button. Which brings me to the real reason we called you all here today. A new image appeared on the hologram. It was a spaceship, massive and sleek, with curves that looked almost predatory. Sarah had never seen a human ship that big. Introducing the Marcus Webb, Admiral Rivera said, humanity's first Dreadnought-class deep space exploration vessel, the most advanced ship we've ever built. Prototype FTL drives, cutting-edge research labs, defensive systems that can handle anything the galaxy throws at it. James made a choking sound. It's named after your father, James. And when you turn 25, if you want it, this ship becomes yours. The room erupted. People shouted questions. Some cried. Some laughed in disbelief. Sarah just stared at the hologram, her mind struggling to process what she'd just heard. That's impossible, someone shouted. You can't give a capital ship to one person. We can and we did, Admiral Rivera said calmly. James doesn't have to take it. If he doesn't want it, the ship will serve in the fleet normally, but the option is his. His father's sacrifice earned it. She looked at James again. You have 9 years to decide what you want to do with your life, James. Just know that when the time comes, humanity has prepared something worthy of your father's name. James sat down heavily. Sarah put a hand on his shoulder and felt him shaking. After the ceremony, Sarah found Admiral Rivera in a side office. The Admiral looked tired now, older than she had on stage. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Sarah asked. Why keep all this secret? Rivera sighed. Because the Coalition Council doesn't approve. They think we're wasting resources. They've formally censured us 3 times for these programs. If they knew the full extent of what we were doing, they'd push to have our voting rights suspended. So you do it anyway? Of course we do it anyway. Rivera's eyes flashed. They can calculate efficiency all they want. We'll calculate honor. Let's see which one builds stronger alliances in the long run. Sarah left the building hours later, her head spinning. Outside, she found James Webb sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. She sat next to him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, James said quietly, "He died for you, for your daughter." "I know," Sarah whispered. "Do you think he knew what they'd do for me?" Sarah thought about Marcus's calm voice over the comm, saying goodbye. No, he just did what he thought was right. Everything else is humanity being humanity. James nodded slowly. Then he started crying, and Sarah held him while he did. This boy whose father had saved her life. And she wondered what the aliens would think if they could see this moment. They'd probably call it inefficient. They'd calculate the resource expenditure on tissues and time and emotional energy. They'd miss the point completely. And that, Sarah thought, was exactly why humanity would always be different. 3 weeks after the ceremony in Geneva, Sarah stood in the viewing gallery of Earth's orbital shipyard. Through the massive window, she could see the Marcus Webb taking shape. Construction crews swarmed around the ship like insects, welding, installing, testing. Even half-finished, it was beautiful. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Rivera had come to stand beside her. We started building it 2 days after Marcus died, pulled resources from 6 different projects. The president herself approved the budget reallocation. Sarah couldn't look away from the ship. The other species must think we've lost our minds. Oh, they definitely think that. Rivera pulled up a holographic display. The Coalition Council has called an emergency session. They want to discuss humanity's fitness for continued membership. Because of the ship? Because we told them about the ship. Rivera smiled grimly. We could have kept it secret, but we don't operate that way. Transparency is important to us. So yesterday, President Vasquez sent a formal notification to the Council explaining the Marcus Webb and its purpose. The hologram showed a recording from the council chambers on Nexus Prime. Sarah had never seen the famous hall before. It was enormous, with seating for representatives from all 47 coalition species. The architecture was designed to accommodate everyone from the massive Drex to the tiny Pixveri, who were barely a foot tall. High Chancellor Zinthara sat at the center, a crystalline being that looked like living diamond. When she spoke, her voice resonated like struck glass. We have received Earth's notification regarding their new military vessel. We have concerns. The recording showed President Vasquez standing at the speaker's podium. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she stood like she owned the room. High Chancellor, the Marcus Webb is not a military vessel. It's an exploration ship. An exploration ship. Crixthal's voice clicked from the Vexry section. With weapon systems that exceed most dreadnoughts in the Coalition fleet. An exploration ship that you intend to give to a single individual based solely on familial connection to a deceased crew member. This is not logical. I didn't say it was logical, President Vasquez replied. I said it was happening. The recording showed the council chambers erupting in noise. Representatives from dozens of species all talking at once, their translator devices creating a cacophony of confusion. Chancellor Zinthara raised one crystalline hand and silence fell. President Vasquez, you must understand our concern. You are proposing to transfer a capital-class vessel to a civilian with no command experience simply because his father died heroically. This sets a dangerous precedent. It sets a human precedent, Vasquez said firmly. One we've been following on Earth for thousands of years. We honor those who sacrifice. We reward their families. We remember. An Altarian representative stood, his purple feathers ruffled. But the resource cost. We've calculated the expenditure. 3% of your entire planetary GDP diverted to this single project. Those credits could fund medical research, expand colonies, strengthen your fleet. We've done our own calculations, Vasquez said, and we've decided this is worth more than any of those things. Sarah watched as the recording showed alien after alien standing to question the decision. They all said the same thing in different ways. This was wasteful. This was emotional. This was inefficient. This was madness. Finally, a Drex representative lumbered to his feet. The bear-like alien's voice was a deep rumble. The Drex do not understand. You sacrifice resources for sentiment. You weaken your species for emotion. Explain why this strengthens humanity. President Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried through the entire chamber. Because loyalty is the foundation of everything we've built. Every government, every army, every family, every friendship. It's built on the understanding that we will stand by each other, that when one of us falls, the rest of us will remember and honor that fall. She looked around the chamber. You ask what we gain from this. Here's what we gain. Every human in coalition space now knows that if they give their life protecting others, humanity will take care of their families. Not with a calculated payment, not with an hour-long memorial, but with real, lasting care. That knowledge makes us stronger, not weaker. It makes you predictable, another voice said. Sarah didn't recognize the species. Enemies will know they can manipulate you through emotional attachment. Let them try, Vasquez said coldly. They'll learn that humans who know their families are protected fight harder than any soldier calculating survival odds. The recording ended. Admiral Rivera closed the hologram. The council voted to censure us. 41 species in favor, 4 against, 2 abstaining. We're officially being reprimanded for resource misallocation. And we accepted the censure without contest. It's going in the official records. Earth has been formally censured by the Galactic Coalition. Rivera shrugged. We'll survive the embarrassment. Sarah turned back to the window, watching the construction crews work on the Marcus Webb. Will it really be ready in 9 years? It'll be ready in 6 months, Rivera said. The 9 years is for James. He needs time to grow up, figure out what he wants. The ship will be completed, tested, and put into service. Captain Sofia Torres will command it until James is old enough to make his choice. And if he doesn't want it? Then it serves as a normal fleet vessel. A very expensive, very advanced normal fleet vessel named after a hero. Rivera smiled. Either way, Marcus Webb's name will be traveling the stars. That's what matters. Sarah was about to respond when an alert chimed on Rivera's communicator. The Admiral's face went hard as she read the message. What is it? Distress call. Rigel 7 mining colony. Pirates have taken hostages. Rivera was already walking toward the door. 2,000 people, including 47 humans. They're demanding ransom. Sarah followed her. The fleet? 8 days away. The nearest coalition ship is 6 days out. Rivera stopped at a lift. But there's one ship that's only 18 hours away. Sarah's blood went cold. No, it's not even finished yet. It's finished enough. Captain Torres took it out for a shakedown cruise yesterday. They were testing the FTL drives. Rivera stepped into the lift. I need to contact her. You can't send an untested ship against pirates. I'm not sending anyone. I'm giving Captain Torres information and letting her make her own choice. The lift doors started to close. That's how we do things, Dr. Chen. We give people information and trust them to do the right thing. The doors closed, leaving Sarah alone in the corridor. Through the window, she could see the Marcus Webb, still incomplete but already powerful. A ship named for a man who made a choice in seconds to save people he barely knew. 18 hours later, Sarah sat in the command center at Earth Defense Headquarters, watching a live feed from Rigel 7th. The mining colony was a small installation on a barely habitable rock. The pirates had surrounded it with 12 ships, old military surplus vessels armed well enough to be dangerous. Captain Sophia Torres's face appeared on the main screen. She was young for a captain, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a jaw that looked like it was carved from stone. Earth Command, this is the Marcus Webb. We've received the distress call from Rigel 7th. We are altering course to intercept. Captain Torres, Admiral Rivera said carefully, you are not under orders to engage. Your ship is on shakedown. You are authorized to observe and report only. Torres smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Respectfully, Admiral, we've discussed it with the crew. The Marcus Webb was built to honor a man who died protecting others. Seems wrong to just watch while people die. On a side screen, Sarah could see data from the mining colony. The pirates had already executed 5 hostages to prove they were serious. They'd continue killing 50 people per day until their demands were met. Captain, you're outnumbered 12-1, Rivera said. Your ship is untested. You have no tactical support. We have something better than tactical support, Admiral. We have a crew that volunteered specifically because they believe in what this ship represents. Torres leaned forward. Every single person on the Marcus Webb applied to serve here because they wanted to be part of honoring Lieutenant Webb's sacrifice. You think any of us are going to sit back and watch hostages die, including civilians we're sworn to protect? Sarah's hands gripped the edge of the console. On another screen, she could see the list of hostages. Her eyes found one name and her heart stopped. Emma Chen, age 6. Her daughter had been on a school trip to the mining colony, a simple educational visit to show kids where Earth got its resources. Sarah hadn't worried because Rigel 7th was supposed to be safe. Admiral Rivera saw Sarah's face and understood immediately. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. Captain Torres, one of the hostages is Dr. Sarah Chen's daughter. There was a pause. When Torres spoke again, her voice was different, harder. Dr. Chen, the woman Lieutenant Webb died to save a mother for? Yes, Rivera said quietly. Then we're definitely going in, Torres said. Lieutenant Webb died so that little girl could have her mother. I'll be damned if I let pirates take that child away. Marcus Webb out. The screen went dark. Sarah couldn't breathe. Emma was there. Her baby was in the hands of pirates who'd already killed 5 people. Rivera put a hand on her shoulder. Torres is good, one of our best. She's flying an unfinished ship against 12 enemy vessels. She's flying a ship built to honor sacrifice and loyalty. If there's any ship that can pull off a miracle, it's that one. The next 6 hours were the longest of Sarah's life. The Marcus Webb dropped out of FTL near Rigel 7th and immediately broadcast on all channels. This is Captain Sophia Torres of the Marcus Webb. You are holding citizens under Earth's protection. You have one opportunity to surrender. Release the hostages, and you will be allowed to leave unharmed. The pirate response was laughter. Their leader, a scarred Scarth warrior named Kaldrix, sneered at the camera. One ship? One human ship not even marked with fleet designation? You're either very brave or very stupid, Captain. Neither, Torres replied. Just very motivated. Last chance. Kaldrix cut the transmission. The pirate fleet moved to attack formation. What happened next became legend in the coalition fleet. The Marcus Webb didn't fight like a military vessel. It fought like a human who'd been pushed too far. Torres used every trick humanity had learned in 23 years of space combat, plus a few they invented in the moment. They broadcast false energy signatures, making the pirates think they had reinforcements. They used the planet's magnetic field to mask their position. They hacked into pirate communications and played psychological warfare, making each ship think the others were planning betrayal. And when that wasn't enough, they fought with a fury that made the pirates question their life choices. The Marcus Webb's prototype weapon systems tore through pirate shields. Its enhanced engines let it dodge fire that should have destroyed it. Its crew worked with a coordination that came from shared purpose. 8 hours after engaging, 8 pirate ships were destroyed. 4 had surrendered. The hostages were free. Every single one, including Emma Chen. The Coalition channels exploded with the news. An unfinished human ship, crewed by volunteers, had defeated a pirate fleet 12 times its size. 0 hostage casualties. 0 crew casualties on the Marcus Webb. In the command center, Sarah collapsed into a chair and sobbed. Admiral Rivera stood beside her, watching the tactical display. "Impossible odds," Rivera said softly. "Untested ship. Outnumbered 12 to 1, and they won anyway." She smiled. "The Marcus Webb just proved something to the entire galaxy." "What's that?" "That loyalty isn't a weakness we haven't outgrown. It's a weapon they never learned to use." 3 days later, the Coalition Council quietly withdrew its censure of Earth. They didn't apologize. They didn't explain. They just removed it from the records. But something else happened. 17 species formally requested information about human loyalty protocols. They wanted to understand. They wanted to learn. And on a mining colony on Rigel 7th, a 6-year-old girl asked her mother why the ship that saved her was named Marcus Webb. Sarah told her about a man who died so they could be together, about a species that honored that sacrifice in ways that seemed impossible. Emma listened carefully. Then she said, "When I grow up, I want to serve on that ship." Sarah held her daughter close and cried again, thinking about Marcus and the ship that bore his name, and the impossible things that humans did when loyalty demanded it. The Marcus Webb had been in active service for 3 years when Lieutenant Commander Aria Jackson brought Captain Torres the report. Torres was in her ready room, reviewing patrol schedules, when Aria knocked. "Come in," Torres said, not looking up from her display. Aria entered and stood at attention. She'd been first officer on the Marcus Webb since its first mission, and she knew Torres well enough to recognize when the captain was going to hate what she was about to hear. "Captain, we've received new orders from Earth Command. We're being reassigned." Torres looked up. "Reassigned where?" "Patrol duty, Sector 19, 6-month rotation." Aria kept her voice neutral. "It's a quiet sector. Mostly established trade routes, very little activity." Torres's jaw tightened. She understood immediately. After Rigel 7th, the Marcus Webb had become famous. Too famous. The Coalition Council was uncomfortable with humanity having a ship that powerful, that successful, crewed by volunteers who treated every mission like a sacred duty. So they were being sent somewhere boring, somewhere they couldn't make more headlines. "When do we leave?" Torres asked. "We have 48 hours to reach the sector boundary." Torres nodded slowly. "Inform the crew. We follow orders." What neither of them knew was that orders were about to become irrelevant. 30 hours later, the Marcus Webb was 2 hours from reaching Sector 19 when a distress call came through. It wasn't on Coalition channels. It was on an old emergency frequency that most ships didn't even monitor anymore. The communications officer, a young ensign named Park, looked confused. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. It's encoded with a Coalition distress prefix. But the signal is weak and fragmented." "Put it through," Torres ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a voice broke through. It was terrified, young, and barely audible. "This is anyone, pirate attack, hostages, they're going to kill." The signal died. "Can you trace it?" Torres asked. Park worked frantically at his console. "Got it. Mining station on Kepler 885. That's 3 hours away at maximum FTL. "That's also in Sector 23, Aria said quietly. "Not our patrol zone." Torres stood up. "How many people typically work at a mining station that size?" "Based on the registry, approximately 400. Aria pulled up more data. It's a small operation, mostly automated, small crew. Any coalition ships in range? Negative. The nearest fleet vessel is 8 hours out. Torres walked to the front of the bridge, staring at the view screen. Everyone was quiet, waiting for her decision. They all knew what the right thing to do was. They also all knew what their orders were. "Captain," Arya said softly, "if we divert to help, we'll be in violation of direct orders. Earth Command assigned us to Sector 19 for a reason." "I know," Torres said. She turned to face her crew. "Here's what we know. There are approximately 400 people under attack by pirates. Coalition response time is 8 hours. We can be there in 3. She paused. "Here's what we also know. We are under orders to report to Sector 19. Diverting to help would be a violation of those orders. It could result in disciplinary action. Court-martial, possibly." The bridge was silent. "So I'm going to do something unusual," Torres continued. "I'm going to ask for a vote. Everyone on this ship volunteered to serve on a vessel named after a man who broke protocol to save lives. Now we face the same choice. Do we follow orders, or do we follow the example of the man whose name we carry?" "Captain," the tactical officer said, "with all respect, you shouldn't have to ask. We all know what Lieutenant Webb would do." Murmurs of agreement ran through the bridge crew. "Nevertheless, I'm asking," Torres said firmly. "This is a crew decision. If even one person objects, we follow our orders. Show of hands. Who votes we divert to Kepler 885? Every hand on the bridge went up. Not one person hesitated. Torres felt a fierce pride in her chest. "Communication, send a message to Earth Command. Inform them we received a distress call and are responding. Navigation, plot a course to Kepler 885, maximum FTL. "Aye, Captain," came the unified response. The Marcus Webb changed course. When they dropped out of FTL near Kepler 885, they found a situation worse than expected. The mining station was surrounded by 15 pirate vessels, not surplus military ships like at Rigel 7. These were proper warships, well-maintained and heavily armed. "That's the Red Comet fleet," Lieutenant Jackson said, her voice tight. "Kaldrix's organization. They've expanded since Rigel 7th. Torres felt ice in her stomach. Kaldrix, the same pirate lord whose fleet they'd destroyed 3 years ago. He'd survived, apparently, and rebuilt. "Scan for hostages," she ordered. "Reading life signs on the station. Approximately 374 individuals, multiple species." The sensor officer paused. "Captain, I'm also reading 42 humans among the hostages." Torres closed her eyes briefly. 42 humans. Under attack by a pirate lord who had every reason to hate humanity after what happened at Rigel 7. "Open a channel," Torres ordered. Kaldrix's face appeared on the view screen. The Scarth pirate looked older with new scars across his face. When he saw Torres, he smiled, and it was not pleasant. "Captain Torres, how delightful. I was hoping you'd come." "Release the hostages, Kaldrix. You know how this ends." "Oh, I know exactly how it ends. Last time I underestimated you. I thought one human ship couldn't possibly be a threat. I was wrong." Kaldrix leaned forward. "But this time, I came prepared. 15 ships, Captain, all ready for you. And if you attack, I've given orders to execute every human hostage immediately." Torres kept her face calm. "So this is about revenge. This is about teaching humanity a lesson. You humiliated me at Rigel 7, destroyed my fleet, made me a laughingstock among the pirate clans." Kaldrix's smile widened. "But I'm a patient creature. I waited. I watched. I learned your patrol routes, and I set a trap that I knew you couldn't resist." "You attacked innocent miners just to lure us here?" "No, I attacked innocent miners because they have valuable cargo. Luring you here was just a bonus." Kaldrix gestured to someone off-screen. A moment later, a video feed appeared showing the hostages. They were crammed into the station's main cargo bay. Torres could see humans, Vexri, Altarians, even a few Drex. They looked terrified. "Here's my offer, Captain. You surrender your ship to me right now, and I'll let the hostages live. You've got 10 minutes to decide. After that, I start executing them. 1 every minute until you comply or until they're all dead." The screen went dark. Torres turned to her crew. "Options?" "We're outnumbered 15-1, Arya said grimly. "The Marcus Webb is powerful, but we can't take on that many ships simultaneously, not without massive casualties." "What about the hostages? Can we get them out?" "Not before Kaeldrix executes them. He's got guards in the cargo bay. The moment we make a move, they'll start killing." Torres paced the bridge, her mind racing. They were trapped. If they attacked, the hostages died. If they surrendered, they handed humanity's most advanced ship to a pirate lord who would definitely kill them all anyway. "Captain," Park said quietly, "there's something else. I've been analyzing the life signs on the station. One of the human hostages is a child, age 6, name Emma Chen." Torres stopped moving. "Say that again." "Emma Chen. She's listed as part of a school group touring mining facilities. They were visiting Kepler 885 when the pirates attacked." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew who Emma Chen was, the girl whose mother Marcus Webb had died to save, the girl they'd rescued from Rigel 7 3 years ago. Torres felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't a coincidence. Kaeldrix had planned this specifically. He knew Emma would be there. He knew what she meant to the crew of the Marcus Webb. "This is personal," Torres said softly. "Yes, ma'am," Arya agreed. "He wants revenge for Rigel 7th, and he wants to hurt us in the worst way possible." Torres looked at the countdown timer on the screen. 8 minutes remaining. "All right," she said. "He wants to play games. Let's play." She turned to her crew. "I need ideas. Impossible ideas. The kind of thing Marcus Webb would come up with if he were here." "We could try the same tactics as Rigel 7, someone suggested. False signals, psychological warfare." "He'll be ready for that," Torres said. "He studied what we did. He knows our playbook." "Then we need a new playbook," Park said. He looked nervous but determined. "Captain, what if we do the one thing he's not expecting?" "Which is?" "What if we actually surrender?" The bridge erupted in protests. Torres held up a hand for silence. "Explain." Park swallowed hard. "Kaeldrix expects us to fight or run. He's prepared for both. But if we actually power down our weapons and surrender the ship, he'll have to board us to take control. That's when we're most dangerous, on our ship, our territory." "He'll keep hostages as leverage," Arya pointed out. "Not if we create a situation where he can't," Park said. He pulled up a schematic of the mining station. "Look at the cargo bay where he's holding them. It's connected to an emergency evacuation system. If we could trigger it remotely, the whole bay would seal and eject into space. The hostages would have 20 minutes of air while the bay drifts away from the station." 20 minutes isn't enough time to defeat 15 ships and recover them," Torres said. "No," Park agreed. "But it's enough time to make Kaeldrix think we've killed his leverage. And when he realizes what we've done, he'll be furious. Distracted. That's when we fight." Torres stared at the young ensign. It was insane. It was risky. It violated every standard tactical doctrine. It was exactly the kind of thing Marcus Webb would do. "Do it," Torres ordered. "But we're modifying the plan. We don't just surrender. We invite them aboard. And then we show them what loyalty looks like." 5 minutes later, Torres opened a channel to Kaeldrix. "You win. We're powering down weapons. The Marcus Webb is yours." The pirate lord looked surprised, then suspicious. "Just like that?" "Just like that. You're right. I can't risk the hostages. Come aboard and take your prize." Kaeldrix laughed. "Do you think I'm stupid, Captain? The moment I board, you'll try something. Then keep some guards on the hostages. Kill one if I try anything. But this ship is named after a man who gave his life for people he barely knew. I'm not going to let 42 humans die because of pride." Drix studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Smart choice, Captain. I'm sending boarding parties. Any resistance and the hostages die. Understood?" "Understood." Torres closed the channel and looked at her crew. "Positions, everyone. This is going to be close." As the pirate boarding parties approached, Lieutenant Park activated the emergency evacuation system on the mining station. The cargo bay sealed and detached, rocketing away from the station with all 374 hostages inside, including Emma Chen. On the Marcus Webb's bridge, Torres waited until the pirate boarding parties were halfway through the docking process. Then she smiled. "Now," she said quietly. What happened next would be studied in military academies for decades. The Marcus Webb's crew had prepared for boarding action with a level of coordination that came from shared purpose. They'd turned their own ship into a trap, with every corridor, every junction, every room prepared for close combat. The pirates never had a chance. Meanwhile, with the hostages safe and drifting in space, the Marcus Webb's weapons suddenly came back online. Torres had never actually powered them down, just made it look like she had. The battle lasted 40 minutes. It was brutal, close, and desperate. The Marcus Webb took heavy damage, but one by one the pirate ships were destroyed or disabled. When it was over, Drix was dead, his fleet was scattered, and the Marcus Webb was limping but victorious, and every single hostage was recovered safely. Captain Torres sat in her damaged bridge, watching as rescue ships collected the floating cargo bay. She could see Emma Chen through the viewport, safe in her mother's arms once again. "Captain," Arya said softly, "Earth Command is calling. They want to know why we violated orders." Torres smiled tiredly. "Tell them the truth. Tell them the Marcus Webb went where loyalty demanded, just like the man we're named after." She looked around at her crew, bloody and exhausted, but alive. "And tell them we'd do it again." 5 years after the Battle of Kepler 885, Dr. Sarah Chen stood at a podium in the Grand Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. The room was packed with representatives from all 47 coalition species. She'd been invited to speak about cultural exchange programs, but everyone knew what they really wanted to hear about. They wanted to understand humans. Sarah looked out at the sea of alien faces and remembered the day Marcus died. She remembered thinking the aliens would never understand why he did it. She'd been wrong. They didn't understand then, but they were trying now. "Thank you for inviting me to speak today," Sarah began. Her voice was steady, practiced. She'd given this speech a dozen times in the past year, but it never got easier. 5 years ago, my closest friend gave his life to save 847 people. Most of them were not human. Most of them he'd never even spoken to. He did it anyway, without hesitation, without calculation. She paused, letting that sink in. At the time, many of you thought his decision was illogical, wasteful, a sign that humans were too emotional for space exploration. You weren't wrong to think that. By any mathematical standard, Marcus Webb's sacrifice made no sense. A few of the alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. Sarah smiled. "But here's what you didn't understand then, and what I hope you understand now. Loyalty isn't about mathematics. It's about something deeper, something that makes us stronger than any calculation can predict." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared behind her. It showed statistics, graphs, data that the aliens would appreciate. Since humanity implemented our loyalty protocol, we've seen measurable changes in coalition space. Human volunteers for dangerous missions are up 300%. Success rates for those missions are up 47%. And most interestingly, casualties are down 18%. Murmurs ran through the hall. Ambassador Velkara, The Vexri representative who'd been studying human culture for years stood up. Dr. Chen, how do you explain these numbers? Logic suggests that encouraging self-sacrifice would increase casualties, not decrease them. Because we're not encouraging self-sacrifice, Sarah explained. We're encouraging loyalty. There's a difference. When people know their families will be cared for, when they know their sacrifice will be remembered and honored, they don't become reckless. They become focused. They fight smarter because they're fighting for something bigger than themselves. She changed the hologram to show footage from the Battle of Kepler 885. The assembled aliens watched as the Marcus Webb faced 15 enemy ships to save hostages. This is what loyalty looks like in practice. Captain Torres and her crew were under orders to go somewhere else. They violated those orders because loyalty demanded it, and they won against impossible odds because every single person on that ship understood what they were fighting for. High Chancellor Zinthara's crystalline form glowed brightly. Dr. Chen, the coalition formally censured Earth for the Marcus Webb project. We believed it was resource waste. Do you believe we were wrong? Sarah met the Chancellor's gaze. I believe you were calculating different things. You calculated resource efficiency. We calculated honor. Both are valid. But only one builds the kind of bonds that make people willing to die for each other. She gestured to the hologram again. You've all seen what happened at Kepler 885. One ship, crewed by volunteers who believed in what that ship represented, defeated a fleet 3 times its size. That's not luck. That's not even skill. That's what happens when people fight for something they truly believe in. The hall was silent. Sarah took a breath and continued. But here's what matters most. After Kepler 885, something changed. 17 species contacted Earth asking about our loyalty protocols. You wanted to learn. You wanted to understand. She smiled. And you've been implementing your own versions ever since. Another hologram appeared, showing examples from across the coalition. The Vexri now maintain memory registers. When one of your people dies in service, their accomplishments are recorded and shared across your hive networks. It's not the same as what we do, but it serves the same purpose. You remember? Velkara clicked softly, a sign of acknowledgement among her species. The Altarians established educational endowments. Children of fallen warriors receive priority placement in your flight academies. You honor sacrifice by investing in the next generation. An Altarian representative ruffled his feathers in what Sarah had learned was a gesture of pride. Even the Drex, who once told us death should serve the living through recycling, have created something new. Continuation bonds. When one of your people dies, others volunteer to complete their unfinished work. You honor the dead by finishing what they started. A rumbling sound came from the Drex section. Not quite approval, but not disapproval either. Progress. My point is this, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. Humanity didn't bring some alien concept to the stars. We brought something universal. Every species here understands loyalty in your own way. We just reminded you that honoring it matters, that remembering matters, that taking care of those who sacrifice for us matters. She closed the holograms and spoke directly to the assembly. 5 years ago, you thought humanity was crazy for spending billions of credits on the Marcus Webb. You thought we were being emotional and inefficient. Maybe we were, but that ship has saved thousands of lives. It's become a symbol of something bigger than any of us. Sarah's voice dropped. And next year, James Webb turns 25. He'll have to decide if he wants to take command of the ship named after his father. Whatever he chooses, that ship will continue to serve. Because it was never really about James. It was about making a promise. When you stand beside humanity, when you trust us, when you give your life for us, we will remember. We will honor you. We will take care of your family like they're our own. She looked around the hall one more time. That's not a weakness. That's not inefficiency. That's the foundation of everything worth building in this universe. Sarah sat down to silence. Then, slowly, Ambassador Velcara began clicking in a rhythmic pattern. Other Vexri joined in. It was their version of applause. The Altarians spread their wings in a gesture of respect. Even some of the Drex rumbled approvingly. High Chancellor Zinthara glowed brightly. Dr. Chen, the coalition formally withdraws its censure of Earth. It was made in ignorance. We have learned much since then. After the speech, Sarah found Velcara waiting outside the assembly hall. The Vexri ambassador approached with her usual precise movements. Dr. Chen, a moment of your time? Of course, Ambassador. Velcara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. 5 years ago, I attended the ceremony in Geneva. I was permitted to observe as a diplomatic courtesy. I calculated the entire event as inefficient. I remember, Sarah said gently. I was wrong. Velcara reached into a pouch and pulled out a small data chip. I have written a treatise, The Currency of Honor, Why Emotional Economics May Exceed Resource Economics. It has been controversial among my people, but it is being read, discussed. Some of the Hive Queens are considering adopting elements of human loyalty protocols. Sarah took the chip carefully. That's incredible, Velcara. It is necessary, the Vexri corrected. The galaxy is changing. Those who cannot adapt will be left behind. Humanity has shown us a different way to calculate value. We would be fools to ignore it. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the viewing gallery of Earth's orbital shipyard again. But this time, she wasn't alone. James Webb stood beside her, now 21 years old and wearing the uniform of Fleet Academy. He'd grown into a serious young man, quiet and thoughtful. He'd graduated top of his class from the Academy, surpassing candidates from species with centuries more spacefaring experience. Dozens of ships had offered him positions. He'd turned them all down. I've made my decision, James said, staring at the Marcus Webb through the window. The ship had been repaired after Kepler 885 and looked even more impressive than before. You don't have to tell me, Sarah said. You have 4 more years to decide. I know, but I've known for a while now. James was quiet for a moment. I'm going to take the position. As captain? No. James smiled slightly. As junior science officer. I want to earn my place on that ship. I don't want to command it. Just because my father's name is on the hull, I want to deserve it. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Marcus would be so proud of you. Would he? James looked uncertain. I never really knew him. I was so young when he died. Everything I know about him comes from stories. From you, from the records, from the ceremony. Sometimes I wonder if I'm trying to live up to a man I never actually knew. You knew him, Sarah said firmly. Maybe not consciously, but you knew him. Every choice he made shaped who you became. Every value he held became part of you. She put a hand on James's shoulder. And you're proving it. You could take command of the most advanced ship in the fleet right now. Instead, you're choosing to start at the bottom and work your way up. That's exactly what Marcus would do. James nodded slowly. When do you think Captain Torres will approve my transfer request? She already did. You report aboard next week. James's eyes widened. She knew I was going to ask? She's been waiting for you to ask. The Marcus Webb has had your quarters ready for 2 years. Sarah smiled. That crew believes in you, James. Not because of who your father was, because of who you are. 1 week later, James Webb stood in the main corridor of the Marcus Webb for the first time. The ship was even more impressive from the inside. Everything was state-of-the-art, cutting-edge technology that most ships wouldn't have for another decade. But what caught his attention was the memorial wall. It ran the length of the corridor, with names carved in permanent metal. At the top was his father's name, Lieutenant Marcus Webb. Died stabilizing core breach at station Kepler 442. saved 847 lives from 23 species. Below it were 47 other names. Every crew member who had served on this vessel. Notations beside each name described their acts of courage, loyalty, sacrifice. Some had died, most hadn't, but all were remembered. It's impressive, isn't it? James turned to find Captain Torres standing behind him. She looked older than in the hollows, with a few gray streaks in her hair and new lines around her eyes. But her gaze was still sharp, still focused. "Captain Torres," James said, standing at attention. "At ease, Ensign Webb." Torres moved to stand beside him, looking at the memorial wall. "This ship isn't just named for your father, it's a living monument to everything he represented." "I know," James said quietly. "That's why I need to earn my place here. I can't just take command because of his sacrifice." Torres smiled. "Good answer. But you should know something. Every person who serves on this ship volunteers specifically because they understand what we represent. They don't come here for glory or advancement. They come because they believe in loyalty, in honor, in remembering those who gave everything." She gestured to the memorial wall. "Your father's name is at the top because he was the first, the reason this ship exists. But every name on this wall matters just as much. That's what humanity understands that took the aliens so long to learn. Every sacrifice matters. Every act of loyalty deserves to be remembered." James looked at all the names, reading the descriptions. A navigator who flew through a radiation field to rescue survivors. An engineer who stayed behind to repair a damaged colony's life support. A security officer who talked down a terrorist and saved 200 lives. "We keep adding names," Torres continued. "Someday, yours will be here too. Not because of what your father did, because of what you'll do, the choices you'll make, the people you'll save." She started walking down the corridor. "Come on, Ensign. Let me show you to your quarters. We deploy tomorrow for a survey mission in the outer reaches. Nothing dangerous, probably, but with this ship, you never know." James followed her, feeling something settle in his chest. Purpose, belonging, the sense that he was exactly where he needed to be. That evening, Earth time, Sarah Chen sat in her office at the Coalition Cultural Exchange Center. Emma, now 11 years old, was doing homework at the side desk. She'd grown into a brilliant girl, curious about everything, especially xenobiology. "Mom," Emma said without looking up from her data pad, "I've decided what I want to do when I grow up." "Oh?" Sarah smiled. "Last week you wanted to be a starship engineer." "That was last week. This week I've decided I want to serve on the Marcus Webb." Sarah's smile faded. "Emma, that's very dangerous. You know what happened at Kepler 885? You were there." "I know. That's why I want to serve there." Emma looked up, her eyes serious. "Uncle Marcus died so you could come home to me. The Marcus Webb saved me twice. Once at Rigel 7, once at Kepler 885. I want to give back. I want to be part of what that ship represents." Sarah wanted to say no, wanted to protect her daughter from danger. But she looked at Emma's determined face and saw Marcus in it, saw that same certainty, that same sense of duty. "We'll see," Sarah said finally. "You've got 7 years until you can apply to the academy. A lot can change in 7 years." "Maybe," Emma agreed. "But I don't think I'll change my mind about this." Sarah believed her. Far from Earth, on the bridge of the Marcus Webb, James Webb took his position at the science station. Captain Torres gave the order to depart, and the massive ship smoothly pulled away from the station. As they accelerated toward the edge of the system, James looked around at his new crewmates. Each one had volunteered to serve here. Each one understood what the ship represented. They were a family bound not by blood, but by shared values. Loyalty, honor, memory, sacrifice. "Ensign Webb," Captain Torres said, "run a full sensor sweep. Let's see what's out there." "Aye, Captain," James responded, his fingers already moving across his console. Through the view screen, the stars stretched into lines as they entered FTL. The Marcus Webb was heading into the unknown, carrying with it the weight of its name and the promise of its purpose. To remember those who gave everything, to honor loyalty in ways the galaxy was still learning to understand, to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or tactics, but the simple, powerful truth that some debts can never be repaid, only remembered forever. In the cold calculus of space, most species count resources. Humanity counts something else entirely, the debts of honor that can never be repaid, only remembered forever. And as long as ships like the Marcus Webb sailed the stars, as long as humans kept their promises to those who sacrificed, the galaxy would continue to learn what loyalty truly meant. Not a weakness to overcome, not an inefficiency to eliminate, but a strength that made the impossible possible and turned ordinary people into legends worth remembering. The Marcus Webb disappeared into FTL, carrying James Webb toward his destiny, Sarah Chen's daughter toward hers, and humanity's promise into the future. The aliens had finally learned to calculate honor, and they were beginning to understand that some currencies are worth more than all the resources in the galaxy.